Welcome to On Writing with Onkarabile, the show that is aiming to promote reading and writing in our communities. We seek to restore pride and dignity of Africans through the power of reading and writing. Ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome Noosi Morai, who is here to share more on what he's doing to promote reading and writing in the community. Mr. Noosi, thank you, sir, for coming to the show.
Thank you very much, sir, for this opportunity, Dr. Onkarabile.
Yes, you always call me doctor. All right, sir, let's talk about your work.
Yes.
Okay, before your work, let's just know who is Noosi Morai.
Yes. Well, Noosi Morai is a simple guy, but more or less in professionalism. He is the co-founder of Morai Capital Solutions, which is an authorized financial services provider, FSP 51587. And beside that, I'm also a motivational speaker into teaching our youth about financial literacy education, more or less focusing in the black society in our townships. Remember, I grew up in township, and if I can say I'm successful today, I'm staying at Basonia or Sentin, but what about the people, the beneficiaries that I'm leaving behind in my township? They look upon me, so we need to come back and say it's possible, black child. If I can be successful, then you can be successful as well. It's a matter of the network, getting the right people in your network and engaging with them, Yes, so yeah.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
In the same note, you speak about financial literacy,
Yes.
which I found it very interesting. And especially that you go to schools,
Yes.
and teach the kids about that.
Yes.
One of the best well-known
Yeah.
writer by the name of Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes.
He wrote a book called, I think you have read the book, Rich
Yeah.
Dad Poor Dad. And in his book, he
Yes.
argues that kids are not taught about
That is
financial
correct.
literacy, especially in schools.
That is correct.
So I was very interested when you say you go to schools and
Yeah.
teach about that.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Do you also agree with Robert Kiyosaki
Yes,
that
absolutely. I've read so many books by Robert Kiyosaki, including Rich Dad Poor Dad, why A students work for C students and B students work for
the government?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, morally, yeah. So I read those, and they were talking to me, Onkarabile, because when I arrived at school, we saw that I saw it when I was doing my final year at university. I was not taught how to make money, but instead I was taught how to work for someone else, So this is the situationship whereby you find many of us black people, we graduate in a whole, 95% of us is blacks. But you find when you go to the corporate, the person that you report to or your director, it's white. They are whites, but they are not there in the graduation ceremonies, Now you ask yourself, but why? What is happening? It's because us blacks, we are leaded to the system, but it's between us to take it to say, all right, now I am going to apply what Robert Kiyosaki has taught me. The Rich Dad Poor Dad, why A students work for C students and why B students work for government facilities. I'm going to touch base on that. But one thing that I saw in our black society as blacks, especially in the public schools, as we say, I go to schools, is that we are not going to in the core concept of the financial literacy, and we can't blame the teachers, we can't blame the lecturers. They are doing their work, they are trained to do what they are doing. It's between us, the specialists, who are saying, I am going to change the life of a black child. I can be listened by millions of people, but if one or two people can get the content, then I'm satisfied. So it's a situationship whereby I studied at high. I passed with maybe bachelor's from from high school. Now I go to university because I passed with A's, for example. I go to university. Now when I get to university, I studied maybe for 4 or 5 years, and then now after then, what is happening now? It's experience. I don't have experience. Number 2, I don't have connections. It's a fact. We are living in the economy of connections. So we are saying that in a matter of fact, let us engage together and teach us the basics, because I graduated with a debt. I owed NSFAS, so I don't want my children to go through the same system, So as blacks, if you can check with the credit rate, it's us who are in debt, the red race, So what is happening, Onkarabile, is that the C student, if I can just summarize to make it more colorful for your understanding and the general public at large, Robert Kiyosaki is saying It's not, it doesn't, I like this statement that says it doesn't take a degree to become a billionaire, but it takes a degree to work for a billionaire. You know, I'm going to touch base on that a little bit. I just want to summarize this thing of A student working for C students and B students in government facilities. You know, the A students, they are geniuses and stuff. They are given, they are born with gift. They are geniuses, you know. But then the problem comes whereby you graduate after 4 or 5 years, and then now after graduating you are going to work for the C student who passed with H or the Balotsarabi for matric, if I can put it in that language, you know. Because you know why? The C student, Robert, is saying this person, he or she, does not get an entry to university or higher education admission, you know. And then now, what they do, they sit down and they observe, they analyze. What can I do now? Okay, right now, this is a loophole, this is a business opportunity, then let me start my own small business because I can't get access to any higher education institution or bursaries or maybe funds to pursue my studies, you know. So those people, they sit down and they open a huge gap they identify a huge gap in the community, and then they bridge that gap. When the A student have graduated after 4 or 5 years, they will work for the C student because the C student was sitting there growing the business like a Chinese bamboo tree that Les Brown is talking about.
No, that's very true. Let me just stop you, Mr. Morai. I just want to understand when it comes to, do you think that if there was enough education when it comes to this issue of financial literacy,
yes,
do you think that could have stopped maybe that kind of system that A student will work for B student will work for the government? Do you think that it was going to be better?
Well, in my understanding, I think it was going to be better if we had enough, you know. But problem is that, remember, South Africa, we are still a developing country, you know. So we are still developing, meaning all the sources, they will still come in the later stage, you know. But hence I say the government cannot do it alone. You know, the government needs stakeholders like us to engage, and then because we are there, we live with these things in our township economies, you know. So if we can have enough facilities, enough machinery or skills, or because one thing for sure, Onkarabile, people when they are successful, everyone is thinking for himself, you know. No one have the energy or time to go and teach like what Noosi Morai is doing as a professional financial planner, you know. So people, once they get into their dreams, now they are settled, they become comfortable. So we are saying that some of us, we are saying I am living my purpose, you know. So if I am successful, let me make sure that all the beneficiaries that are coming into our township economy, Soweto, the deep side of Soweto, they also get what I got, you know, because I was lucky to be where I am, but I worked hard as well, you know. Now I am thinking for them. So we just need much of introduction of the financial literacy in our schools.
All right.
You know.
On that note, I want to understand, because, okay, you say that the government cannot do it alone,
Yes.
which I agree.
Yes.
They need us stakeholders,
Yes.
you know, like you guys who are financial providers.
Yes.
I want to know, because when you look at every year at school, kids receive books.
Yes.
You know, we have accounting books,
Yes.
EMS, you know, economics
Yes.
books, which are not really teaching kids to make money. You know.
Yeah.
So what is it that can be done that kids will receive books?
Yeah.
Just like the same thing, like they receive books of economics, of accounting.
Yes.
That they will receive the books like the one
Yes.
that we are talking about, like the
Yes.
one of Robert
Yes.
Kiyosaki. What can be done?
I think that's where you come in as a master book writer. You know, I think that's where you come in, Onkarabile. The content we have, but now, hence you said, I like your statement when you said the government. When I said the government can't do it alone, you know. So that's why we need stakeholders like you to say, all right, I've got the content. Now I also need someone who's going to supervise me into writing this book, you know. So I recommend Dr. Onkarabile to say, all right, since you have written so so many books that sold copies. How about maybe we sit down at school, we said, all right, this is the content that we can write, maybe, and then it's going to teach our children about financial literacy, and it's going to prepare them when they go to a higher education institution, because I was very, very, very disappointed. There's a story of an NSFAS lady who got money mistakenly into her account.
Yes.
And now, because we don't have financial literacy, and you know what she did? She misused the money she spent in designing clothing, traveling, and all of those things. And now, what's happened after? Emotional stress, financial stress, depression, So we try to cut those things as early as possible, So I think having to introduce the book writing at schools, I think it's going to be a very profound idea in our public schools.
No, I agree with you. Yes. I agree with you. And what I like now, as you are saying that, is that we, the Department of Education has now opened, for young authors to submit their books every year, so that their books can be used in school libraries.
Wow.
So I think that's where you come in now, where you have to write a book about that. Because some of my books actually have been selected to be used in school libraries. Like this book, and it's also teaching the same. Financial wisdom. And it's the same concept, like what we are talking about now. That we need to teach kids about how to make money, not only how to calculate money. To work for someone. Accounting is good, economics is good, but now we need another angle that will teach the kids that after you know how to calculate money, then how to make it now. So I think that's where we need you now to write a book. So
you will supervise in that department, because I think that's where you come in. I like one of the motivational speakers that I follow, Les Brown. He said it's possible that we can give them a curriculum that will give their lives a sense of purpose and direction and meaning, where they become assets to our society rather than being liabilities. So we are going to cut that concept. They are going to become assets in our societies by that book writing, because it talks about the core concepts of financial literacy. It's not theory, but it aligns with the practicality. I like the statement said by Vositembe Kwayo. He said, he made an example about swimming. He said, if it's like a business, it's like swim. I mean, what did he say? He said, if I give you a textbook, whereby you read on how to swim, you understand, you are reading the theory of swimming, but if after 2 or 3 years or 4 consecutive years, I come and take you and then shout you into the ocean, trust me, you would sink. You know why? Because swimming requires practicality, not theory, So I think that concept, it aligns with what we are talking about now, to say in our schools, this is what we need to do from the entrepreneurship point of view. We need to practice what we do. You know what I mean? We need skills, because most of rich people, most of successful people, they are successful through skills. I never saw someone saying I'm a billionaire because they got degree or university degree. I never saw something like that.
Now tell me, Mr. Since we talk about schools mostly, we talk about schools. Let's talk about parents. There is a lady by the name of Busi Selesho. She's a money coach, and she wrote a very powerful book titled "Money and Black People." And in her book, she said something very powerful. She says, parents sometimes, they also play a role when it comes to not teaching their kids about money, how to make money. And she makes an example. She says, you will see a parent, selling fruit and veggies on the street. Making money out of that. Even taking the kid to school, paying the fees with the same money. But the parent will say to the kids, my child, I don't want you to be like me. I want you to go to school so that you can have money. And she argues, she says, that's a wrong concept. I mean, the parent is making money out of the same system of selling. But she's saying to the kids, I don't want you to be like me.
I think that's where it comes to it's a generational curse. We can't blame our parents because they were not taught. They were only programmed. Remember, my granny used to tell me the same thing, to say, you need to go to school and then you can access so many opportunities. But the most importantly, you need to go to school. You know why? Because when I am actually assessing the street vendors or the small medium businesses. It's like I sell maybe chicken dust, and then I can't make anything out of chicken dust. It's hand to mouth, survival, So once I know from parent, my son is at school, there's an assurance that this is a certification. Now it's in the hands of a child to say, what am I going to do? Who is Noosi? Beside Noosi working for XXA company, who is Noosi? That's finding your own true identity. So it's a generational curse. We were taught, I for one, I was raised by a grandmother, I was taught to go to school. But now, after having to spend, as I said before, having to spend more than 4 years at varsity, I realized that no, man, these Forex guys are making money, These guys who are trading are making billions and millions, But then now I realized to say, all right, no, it's fine. Now it's in my hands now. Now my parent doesn't have anything at home. They used to, bet China, and I survived through China. I went to school through China. My granny dies. I took over the business, So it's a generational curse for me. Yeah, that's where Robert Kiyosaki came with the book of Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah, but otherwise it's in you after graduating. Where do you go? Where do you fall? So I for one, I had to say, all right, with all the education that I got from higher education, let me identify gaps and then start my own empire. That's why today we are talking about Morai Capital Solutions, a big brokerage company.
So tell me, Mr. Morai,
Yes.
have the schools welcomed you with that content that you are bringing?
Absolutely, 100%. It's in us. Remember, in my first interviews at SABC, I did mention to say we are willing to work, but now let's get government on board. Let's get government engagement. Then we can proceed with the project. But otherwise, rather than that, the project is helping all the black children in school society, because it's not only about financial literacy. I can be rich in terms of financially, but if I'm poor mentally, then it's pointless. I can be rich and have billions, drive cars, stay in the estate, but then now if I don't have emotional intelligence, that's where that's the problem, So you can't handle those monies. So we are saying, let's teach both teachers. They also need financial literacy. Everyone in our country, including me, So with people like you, Dr. Onkarabile, I think we have a lot of work that we are going to do. But otherwise, the concept is accepted at schools. We are going to public schools. It's just that COVID came and we had to restructure, pay all our debts, the company debts. But right now we are trying to breathe, So we are going back to our schools and educate the children about the financial literacy education.
So in your education, do you also encourage the kids to read books like the ones of Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yes.
Do you also encourage them to read books like that?
Because they made me to be where I am. I read those novels. I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read why A students work for C students and why B students work for government. I read almost most of his books, and I think there's a book that I love mostly, which is 48 Laws of Power, That
by
book,
Robert Greene.
Yeah. You see, so such books, they give you the personal character, the leadership character on your own, So the children, one thing that I saw, remember psychologically, they don't want to read more, but if we can introduce a novel like the novels that you are writing, it's simple and straightforward, So we need those things, and sometimes I think best when you look into the market trend, I think it's also advantageous to focus on the digital books, because most of our children, they don't read newspapers, they don't read books, they rather spend time on their mobile smartphones, social media networks and stuff. But to take a matric learner and give her a book to read,
it's going to be a problem.
It's going to be a problem. But once maybe it's on digital platform, then it's going to be easy for them with the content of pictures. I mean, if I can analyze their cognitive knowledge of psychology, it's going to be a problem for them. But those who want it, they will venture into it, Yeah, but otherwise, the reading concept of our children, it's very slow. They want quick things, Yeah, that's
Thanks, Mr. Morai. And if I will ask you the last question.
Yeah.
We talk about you guys stakeholders helping the government, which is a very important thing.
Yes.
You know, and also we spoke about that your content must now be in a book.
Yes.
Where it can also be taught at schools.
Yes.
You know, in a form of a book.
Yes.
What about the teachers?
Yeah.
What about the teachers? Because remember, as you have spoken about the system, the teachers went to university or tertiary, and they've been taught how to teach people about what they have, you know, what they have learned
Yes, and
about.
you can't blame teachers.
You understand?
Yeah.
The teacher is qualified to teach economics,
Yes.
is qualified to teach accounting,
Yes.
EMS, and they are teaching that,
Yes.
you know. So how is it going to change when it comes to that? Because sometimes they are doing it because it's their work.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's nothing that they can do. They
Yeah.
can't teach beyond textbook.
Month end I want to get paid.
Exactly, you understand?
Yeah.
And you can't teach beyond the textbook.
Yes.
So how are we equiping
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
the teachers also,
Yes.
to not only focus on, you know,
Yeah.
those actual,
Yeah.
what I can say, based books.
Yes, yeah. I think the government, I think it has to introduce each and every module. It's just an idea, you know. Each and every module needs to have the practicality of a financial literacy, you know. Maybe, for example, economic modules, you know, financial accounting, you know. As I said, we don't have to program them about facts and figures, but they need to be taught how to think as well, you know, and become creative and producers, you know, because the problem with us South Africans, we are consumers, you know. We are not producing anything. I think there was a time when I was at Shanghai. I will come to the question. I was surprised, Dr. Onkarabile, when I saw children at the age of 12 years, 13 years, 14 years, you know, fighting for, being stressed actually for the Toyota engine, you know. And when I think about the ages of children in that living standard measure in South Africa, 12, 13 years, 14, we are still in puberty stage. We are still doing A, E, O, ooh, you know.
Yeah,
So those children at China, they are doing engines. They are stressed about engine. You throw a banana, for example, a banana. They will fight for that, you know. They will fetch that and run for that because they know they're going to produce creams for that, you know. That's going to make us enhance beauty and all, you know. So it starts with practicality at the younger age, you know, very, very younger age. Then we can do that at teachers to say, all right, no, many teacher, mama, teachers are doing the best. I don't want to lie. They are doing the best because they are producing engineers, they are producing politicians, they are producing presidents, doctors, brokers, everyone. But now the concept is aligned. They can't go beyond what they were taught. Remember, there's legislation, there's law, there's constitution, you know. So it's gonna be not a problem, but it's gonna be something that can be manageable. No, when you say government, how about maybe we put 5% portion of financial literacy in each and every book, maybe economics, accounting, or maybe EMS in our schools, social science, for example, you know, those actually the economic related modules. Let's just put maybe just 5% or 2% of that. Then teachers will also be trained regarding that, you know, because they can't teach something that they are not trained.
Exactly.
You know,
Yes.
So they will also need training. That's where we come in as specialists. That's where you come in as a master of book writing.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Morai. We can go, you know, with this topic. It's a very, you know, imperial topic. We can go on and on. But maybe your last words, what can you say to the kids, maybe the teachers, the parents who are watching the show about this financial literacy?
I think it's best. My advice to our parents out there is that support your children with all means. Do not oppress the children. Don't say my child must be a doctor, my child must be a scientist. Why, for you are not a scientist. How do you expect your child to be a doctor or scientist? You know, leave the children to do things that they love. But otherwise, rather than that, we need to support our children at all costs, emotionally, psychologically. You know, everything starts. Charity begins at home. You know, once there's a healthy relationship in the house, then in the FLC model, which is family life cycle, then once the child gets successful emotional inside the house, the child will eventually be successful in the public, in the world as well. You know, so it starts with us, the parents, to say, let's direct our children into the right path. You know, let's not just all blame our children children, we all say, look at this, is doing this, you are not doing this. Look at, you are comparing your child with other people's children, but you don't know the merits of what they do to make their children to be successful, you know. So that thing is killing a lot of children in our society. I've conducted one-on-one session with most of my students, you know, to say they want to compare me with this and this. So we don't need to do that as parents. Let's just ensure that my child is doing what they love and they found successful in that. My advice is that let us include God in everything that we do, you know. If I came here, I prayed, you know, I prayed, God, give me strength, you know. So everything they do, if they go to study, if they go to maybe to play soccer, to do whatever thing, to attend a seminar, or maybe SIP classes, they need to invite Jesus Christ, because the devil is out there, is fighting for the children of God, and we as Solomons, we will never allow that to happen, you know. So,
I will say amen for that. Thanks, Mr. Morai, for coming to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Noosi Morai on financial literacy in schools. You were watching On Writing with Onkarabile, the show that is aiming to promote reading and writing in our communities. Please do subscribe to our channel, Nolu Unlimited Multimedia. Like and share our interview.